If you're ready to skip the line and get the full formula on how to turn your passion into a business, I want to invite you to pick up my brand new book, Key Ingredients: How to Turn Your Passion Product into a Profitable Business. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook form. Go to keyingredientsbook.com or simply search it on Amazon. You know I love a great party, and I am throwing a special book launch party in July, and your ticket to get in is to go and purchase a book. All you need to do is forward the receipt, and I'll have the email in the show notes. This will be a chance to ask me anything about the book, about your business, about me, about writing a book. And I'm going to be doing some really fun giveaways, including giving away a 4-pack of VIP one-on-one strategy sessions with me. But to be entered to win that, you do need to submit a review of the book as well. And all you need to do is forward your review to the same email, and then you will be entered to win. Go to keyingredientsbook.com to get the link to go grab your copy, and then forward me all that info. We'll get you the registration link so you can join me in July for a fun book launch party. Welcome to Your Food Business Success. This podcast is for early stage entrepreneurs in the packaged food industry ready to finally turn that delicious idea into reality. I'm your host, Sari Kimbell. I have guided hundreds of food brand founders to success as an industry expert and business coach, and it's gotta be fun. In this podcast, I share with you mindset tools to become a true entrepreneur and run your business like a boss. Interviews with industry experts to help you understand the business you are actually in, and food founder journeys so you can learn what worked and didn't work and not feel so alone in your own journey. Now let's jump in. All right, everyone, welcome to the podcast. I have to tell you, I'm a little emotional. This is like an incredible guest that I get to bring on, somebody who I've been coaching now for, we were just talking, almost 2 years going on. We're getting close. And we've become friends. We are coach and coachee. We are so many things. And so I am just so thrilled to welcome Bryan of Magic Chonk to the podcast. Hi.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. What a moment.
I know. We were just talking before we hit record that tell us about it, because you were saying how you have been wanting to be on this podcast. It's been part of the dream.
Yeah, even before I reached out and we met the first time, October 2021, I listened to your podcast, and I just in the back of my head, I was like, one day I'll be on here. And like listening to people like Chanel and like all that stuff. And it's like, it's wild that I'm on here. But I was telling you, I'm like, I barely know anything. Why am I on here?
And I was saying, it's nobody knows anything. We're all figuring it out. And it was really important to me. I mean, we've had so many good conversations over the years, almost years, plural. And I wanted to wait until you officially launched, because I thought that was really important to celebrate that on the podcast. So I'd love for you to you are officially launched. The Magic Tricycle is launched in Steamboat with Magic Chonk ice cream. So tell us a little bit about the product, the brand, what it is, where you're at right now. We'll talk about the future later on.
Yeah. So Magic Chonk is a vegan and top 9 allergen-free ice cream, but most dairy-free ice cream, it's watery and crunchy, or it's a health food. This is not a health food. It is super delicious and over the top, because ice cream is a right. Everyone should enjoy it. I've been working on this for over 2 years now, like from the first idea. It all started, I have a really bad stomach, so I've always had to cut things out of my diet. I have a huge sweet tooth, and so started buying dairy-free ice cream, was never satisfied, added some stuff to it, made my own, and then I was like, why doesn't this exist? And also, realizing, like reading the back of the ingredients, finding a dairy-free and gluten-free cookies and cream, or like why does ice cream always have nuts? And if you have any of these things that you can't have, enjoying ice cream, it's a right. Everyone should be able to enjoy it. So
I know.
that was the
I love
idea.
it.
Yeah.
You've nailed that. You worked on that at the fancy food show. You were like polishing up your.
I'm still working on it. When I'm on the bike in town, I am always like, I'm the next person. I'll try this. So
Yeah,
it's a work in progress.
Sure, you're just getting better and better. So, so fun. So let's go back in time. So we met October 21. We kept. It's like, really? How long? I cannot believe it's been that long. But even before that, so tell us a little bit about your history, because you have not been an entrepreneur. You were actually in finance. So paint a picture back summer or fall of 21. What was going on in your mind?
Yeah. So leading up to that, I had worked in finance for 10 years. I was in New York City. Since I was a kid, that was my dream, was to live in New York, wear a suit, and work in finance. Made it happen. And shortly before COVID, I didn't feel super connected anymore. It didn't feel like me. It didn't feel like the right fit. I'd done it. And I was like, I'm not having enough fun, if I'm being honest. That's like the main thought that I was having. So leading up, right before COVID, I was actually planning on taking some time off and taking a sabbatical to kind of reconnect. And I've always wanted to start my own business, but it was always, when I do X, then I'll start something. So my whole thing was, I'm going to take time off and then I'll work on a business plan. Like everyone, like COVID happened, it hit. And so I'm like, what am I doing? And working from home. And I left New York and ended up in Denver, basically. And I think it was for a lot of people, it was kind of like, what am I doing? And I'm not really happy. This doesn't feel, and you'll hear a lot of this, like, this doesn't feel authentic to me anymore. Like working in this corporate environment, and it's wonderful. Like you get salary and benefits and, a support system and all these things. But like, I have always wanted to start my own business. Both my parents, they're dentists. Haha, ice cream guy. His parents are dentists. Literally, Willy Wonka. Nothing to unpack there. But they started their own business. And so I think that just kind of set an example of like, I want to try to build something. I want to make something. And so I got this, everything was always so overwhelming. And finally I was making my own ice cream. And I was like, well, this is like it's always going to be scary. And so I was like, this feels like a good thing to start with. I always say the worst thing that could have happened was I ended up with ice cream that only I like. And the best case is I had a viable business. And like, those are two pretty good outcomes. And so basically when I moved to Denver, January 2021, and started with Post-it notes on a wall. And yeah, I did an incubator through the summer, and then started meeting with you in October 2021. And I didn't really go full time until January. And yeah, I mean, I think when we met in October, I was in a really dark place. And that's like another thing I think we'd like to talk about today as well, is just that journey and like how it is really tough. I think everyone struggles with anxiety and depression, and, really just going after your dreams and like doing things and doing the scary thing really is the best path to like show the world who you are, be you, and like be excited and have more fun.
So yeah, I so appreciate, I love this conversation. I know we want to both have today because we met and you were excited, but I mean, your affect these days is so different. I remember that version of you who was feeling a little lost. You were still in finance. You were working for a bank and doing that daily, virtual, the grind of work. But you had this pull towards this business, and it felt like what I noticed as we talked is like you had gone in spurts, right? You get like really high, like, yeah, we're gonna do it, and you get excited. And then there'd be like a drop in motivation, or even, anxiety, overwhelm, doubt.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing here? And then you'd be like, then I wouldn't hear from you for a while. And first you actually joined Food Business Success. And then I think you realized like, if I'm going to do this, I need more
Yeah.
support.
Yeah, and to dive into that, I mean, that's a good way of putting it. Like December, I came up with the idea that of 2020. January, I moved to Denver, super stoked. I got like a business, build a business plan book, and I got Post-it notes and put it on my wall. And then like I think it was around like mid-February, it like died off. I did nothing. I finished that and then I did nothing. And my voice, like inside my head, I was like, I'm never going to do this by myself. So I found an incubator program in Denver, signed up for that. That was over the summer, and pushed it a little bit further, really formalized it, and then that died off. And then,
Yeah.
and it definitely was driven by like one of my big insecurities is like, I believed at the time that like, I don't finish things. I don't get things done. And so it's this fear of like, oh shit, like this might actually happen. Like I'm taking the steps and like, yikes,
It's like fear
like
of failure and fear of success all at the same time.
yeah. And so I will say like that's one of the big things. Like even when I was the most sad and depressed and like hyper anxious was reaching out and like asking for help, and people like you and a therapist and friends. Like I do the best when I'm working with someone else. And that was one of the things that I joined Foods Business Success. It was nice, but then I was like, I would really do well just working closely with you. So that I don't feel as alone. And then most of our sessions are talking about like, I feel this way. It isn't so much tangible. It's like, yikes.
We're a good mix. Yeah, we do. We have a nice mix of like strategy and getting questions answered and making a plan, but also all the things that hold people up, right? The anxiety and the overwhelm and the fears of putting yourself out there, the fears of success, as we've talked about. I mean, it's a real thing, right? And yeah, I just appreciate that you saw the need, that like I need support. And so we've been, working together. I think we started one-on-one in November of 21. So it's been, a good year and a half plus. So, and I was telling you before we started recording, it's like, I just love you so much. Like, you're just such an amazing person. We've come to be friends. That's where I started writing the book. You and your husband invited me to come up to Steamboat, and it's just been so fun to be on this journey with you. And I appreciate your vulnerability and like your willingness to get messy.
Yeah. I mean, and I love you too, Sarah. You're like my friend, and I feel like the best way to capture it is managing your mind. It's such a cliche, but almost to phrase it another way, not waiting for it to feel good to do it, but figuring out the tools, trying the tools. A lot of them I've tried and they don't work for me, but like just trying and like consistent little bits. Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking at, actually a coach friend of mine posted something on Instagram about ready is a decision. It's not a feeling. We think like, I just got to wait till I feel ready. If we were waiting for you to feel ready, we would not have ice cream launched at this point. And I remember going back to, we were looking through some of our notes before this. So January of 22 is when you decided to take a big leap to really go bigger on the ice cream. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so through 2021, I was working on ice cream, and then I was working full time at the bank. And it's terrifying taking that leap. Like I said, benefits and pay. And, I was like, oh, I can definitely do both of these. And then once I launch, then I can really do ice cream. And I mean, I'll say like, I'm fortunate that like I had some savings build up, and I also took the mindset that like, I'm young, I'm 32. I don't have a family. I don't have a house. So I was like, I want to take this risk now because my worst fear is like, what if? And so I will at least say like, I was not my best self at work anyways. And so the opportunity came up that like I was able to leave the bank, and we had an amicable parting. And it was just an opportunity that was kind of like, you know what, like I'm not being my best in either of these. I'm not showing up 100% at my W-2 job, and I'm not showing up my best at ice cream. And so I want to take this chance and just go for it and see what happens. And I think looking back on it, especially that fall of 2021, I think I was so sad and so anxious because I was in that limbo. I didn't make a decision. And that to me is the worst place you could be,
Yeah.
once you make a decision, you can live with that. And you're like, all right, let's get this. Like, I'm going to do everything I can to make it work. And like, this is it. But it was that in between where I was like half one foot in the door, one foot out. And yeah, so January 2021, I left my job and I was like, you know what? I'm going to see what happens and roll the dice.
Yeah. I remember that. And it was such a big decision. And there were ups and downs. It's like that excitement of like, oh my gosh. And then also terror of like, what have I done? But decide literally means to cut off, right? To choose one thing. And so you did that. And yeah, I think it really helped you to get focused and say, okay, this has got to work. And, you know, I think you and I have talked about this too. It's like there's that intersection in everybody's lives of like, you can do a business, but you got to make sure it's the right time. And it's like that intersection of time, money, and health. And to your point, like this is a great time for you to do it. I mean, worst case scenario, you've learned a lot. You can take it to something else. You have a great product that you love and you're really proud of. And you know, it's going to serve you well. And you know, you are young and you don't have a lot of obligations. And so yeah, I really respect, it's like taking the leap, you know, it's a leap of faith. Like, can I do this? So you did it.
And the one thing I really want to highlight too is it's nice to say like, oh, you know, I made this decision, but almost it was like not possible without the people that were around me. Like even in the tough times, you know, I reached out to you and we worked together. My now husband, but boyfriend at the time, he was a big support as well. And, you know, just reaching out to other people, other founders, what they did, and just like hearing from everyone else and getting their encouragement and realizing that a support system is there and that I can make it happen, I think was what really made me the most comfortable with that. And not everyone has those exact things, but I think you can kind of find those things in your, you know, you can find your own mix of support, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just in fuel, which you come to on occasion, and like at the very least, come and get supported by me and the members there and realize you're not alone. Like it's just such a lonely thing to do on your own, you know?
Yeah.
I want people to feel supported. So one thing I wanted to highlight is I think that was really helpful in your journey is you did pretty much do everything I asked you to do, which is great. Like as a coach, I'm like, you're paying me, you're investing in me, and then like just at least try what I'm suggesting. And so you have, and I will give you full props for that. But one thing I love that you did that I suggested you do is you know, I connected you with different makers in the area and producers, and you know, shout out to Caitlin and to Chanel and Teresa and Kristen. Like you went and you just volunteered your time. I was like, listen, if you want to pick their brains, don't go ask to sit down at coffee. They don't have time for that. Like go work side by side by them and see what it's like, because you've never been in a kitchen and production. Like, and you did that. And it was awesome. Like you went and just volunteered and gave of your time, and because you had it, you know, and you decided this is part of the journey. And I think, I know that's a little bit of a luxury, but also make the time. And if you really want to, you know, go help other producers. Don't just ask for their time, but go and help.
And I mean, selfishly, like, I think the big reason why I did that is like, I knew nothing. I have never made ice cream. Like, I haven't even worked in a kitchen. Like, commercial kitchens, all that big stuff. I was like, oh my God, what is a 3-tub sink? Like, I didn't know any of this stuff. So it was like a win-win. I was able to learn from these founders like Chris and Teresa at Flower Co., how they run things, even the culture, like being there early mornings and seeing the people coming back and just experiencing that and being like, wow, I want to replicate that if I can. Sets an example, you know, working with Caitlin and learning to pack pints and all that stuff. Like it's talking to Chanel about she was the big reason why I'm making a product that's all allergen free, but really emphasize like you need to find a gluten-free kitchen. I'm not celiac, but she was like, you know, if you open a big bag of flour, it's going to aerosolize and it's hard to clean. You know, I hadn't thought of that stuff. So if anything, it was like win-win-win. I felt less lonely and I saw other people doing what I wanted to do. I learned because I knew nothing. And then I also got to have some fun too. It was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
know. And now you have like you've built up a network, and you came to Fancy Food Show and met some more people, and that's just I cannot emphasize that enough for anybody listening. Is like you need a community. You cannot do this by yourself. And I've connected you with people that then have helped you on the next level of your journey, right? It's just like, oh, just I wish I could shake everybody and be like, you got to get out of your house, your little bubble in your kitchen. Like, go build up a network, whether it's virtual or in person or both. It's just
And even another thing I would encourage people is like be willing to like be stupid or like be dumb and like not know things. There's a lot of people that I've talked to throughout my life, but especially in this journey where I'm like, so like here, I hadn't even launched. I think this is like over a year ago. I hadn't moved. I'm in Steamboat now. I was still in Denver and I called whatever the huge billboard company is because I was like, I want a billboard one day. So I like emailed their sales rep and he's like, asking me all these big company questions like revenue and your average spend. And I was like, oh, like, I just want a billboard one day. Like, how much does it cost? Like, and so use that card while you're new because you can get so many free passes. And, I'll very often say, I don't know this, or like, please teach me. Like I have know nothing. And I just find that also is nice because you can learn from people and it's such a lonely road when you're starting this alone. That's one of the big things I miss is a workplace where you walk in and you have my coworker, and even if they don't want to work, we can get coffee and, there's that social interaction. And so even if you're curious about something, reaching out, feeling silly and just saying like, I don't know anything, like you at least can talk to somebody and you never know who you're going to meet. And like, what's the worst that happens? They're just like, sorry, I'm not interested, or sorry, I don't have time. And then it's like, okay, well, like you missed out on my future big brand, but right now it's just a dream.
That's right. And you really took that attitude to Steamboat. So you and Matt decided to move to Steamboat last summer. And so we had to shift, we were looking for commissaries and things in Denver, and then we shifted up there. But I connected you with a couple of people. I just happen to know some people up there in the food space. But you also just on your own really did some great, done a great job. There are some food brands up there and done a great job tapping into the community and becoming part of it. You even joined, was it city council?
Planning commission. Yeah. Commissioner Swintek.
It's like, why would you do that? Well, because you're brand new to an area and go be part of the community, go embed yourself in it.
It's interesting too. Small government is really interesting. It's important. It's the most impactful. You literally can see the effects.
That is true, right? We complain about the big election, but actually it's way more impactful to spend your energy on the home turf. So we got you up to Steamboat. And obviously, life keeps happening. You got the move and, you had to work through all the severance stuff. And so I think it's just important for people to realize, like, I think you kept putting timelines on it. And it's important to have timelines. We could talk about creating a big deadline. It's also important to have compassion and realize like life happens and we got to allow for that as part of the journey.
Yeah, I mean, that summer, so to connect it, like we really started working and had a plan through like January through March, April. And I started working with a branding agency and reaching out to people. I was working with a chef to develop it, and like that excited momentum. And then we moved up to Steamboat, and I just like, I was like, I want to launch this summer and get out there. And ultimately, like looking back at it, I just didn't have the skills. Like I still needed to figure out how to do this. And like last summer was really tough. And, thank God for Matt, my husband. He's been super supportive, and my parents and even the people I've met up here. But like there were a lot of days over that summer that like I would spend all day cleaning. Like, it's like I would buffer. It's like, I had been meaning to deep clean the washer or something like that. And or like, I do stuff and then I'm like, I'm going to take a nap. And it really just stemmed from, once again, that like fear of, oh my God, like this has started. I really started put money in it, and I'm doing branding, and I'm trying to get a product, and selling might actually happen. And we worked a lot over that summer, and I tried a lot of things through that summer. Like I did time block before, but in different ways and using different tools, or the big five or the big three. And some of them just, like, a lot of them just didn't work, or I wasn't really ready to use them. And that summer was like really hard. And I feel like that whole feeling lasted until our jam session together this past December, when it just clicked. And it was like, oh my God, Bryan, like, you have to get this done by this date, or like this dream is not going to happen. And it motivation through fear isn't great, but like, I think that was kind of the wake up call that I had. It was the valley of despair almost. It was like I got over that hump. I was really excited, and then it's like, oh my God, there's so many things I have to do. Like website and the design and social and the product and all this stuff. Like, it was so. Once again, I want to like normalize. It's not just always like rainbows and sunshine. Like, it is a roller coaster, and it's like, I mean, we'll get to that, but even like a couple weeks ago, like I called you crying. Like, it's, so that summer was not great. Like, but I had to go through that to learn. Yeah.
Well, I think there was the disappointment of like I should be launched by the summer of 2022, right? Like, this should be happening. And you were moving, so we had to kind of start over with kitchens and figure that out. But you decided to make some purchases, I think that summer. So you got the bike that summer anyway.
The
And I think
freezer, the batch freezer.
yeah, you got some big equipment. You did find a kitchen up there.
Uh-huh.
But the recipe wasn't quite there yet. And it's funny to look back because you brought me samples, I think, that summer. And then once we tried, when I was up in Steamboat in March, and we tried the more, pretty close to finished product. And I was like, I want to cry. Like, this is so much better than what you brought me last summer. And it was good last summer, but this is real. Like, this is delicious.
It's good.
Like,
yeah. It's not, I know it's delicious. If you ever taste it, you'll love it.
I would, I'm not necessarily dairy free. And I was like, I would totally eat this all the time, like choose this. So kudos on that. But we weren't there last summer, and we weren't, it's like there was things that, and it feels like a grind. You're like, oh my God, you want to like push it forward. But there were things you had to go through. We had to go through some formulation changes. We couldn't get the packaging until the formula was right. We couldn't put the nutrition facts on the thing until, it was just like these pieces of like, which one goes first? And you just want to push it, but you can't. And it needs to take the time it takes. It just does.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that summer I made like 50 batches of brownies, because at that point I was going to launch 3 flavors with mix-ins. And so I made like a million versions of blondies, and they didn't work as I had planned. And I was new in a commercial kitchen and I had to learn food science and talk to like people and read stuff. And I just had to learn. And I had to learn too how to problem solve that. Like, basically at the end of the year, it was like, dude, you're wasting way too much time on these blondies. Like, why, the base is delicious. Why don't we just do vanilla and chocolate and then like one with mix-ins and just like get it out there, and then we'll worry about this later. And like, now that's a skill and a tactic that I have learned through blood, sweat, and tears. It's like, yeah, if I'm forcing something, stop, take a step back, and just like take the easier route, and it will solve itself, like fix itself. But just jamming it and being like, I learned a lot. It was great. But it was painful.
It was painful. And I remember one of the things we talked about, because you were like, oh, I'm trying to figure out the formula. And you hired somebody to help you get it, 85% of the way there. But we talked about, like, we kept coming back to, and we have come back to a number of times, this brand is called Magic Chonk. It is about ice cream. It is about delighting people with this amazing fun. Yeah. And we can't build a business that's based on fun. Like, we can't get there from stressed and frustration and anger and then all of a sudden be like, I have a fun business. Like, we have to create a fun business by having fun in the business as part of the process. So I remember having a conversation with you about like, how can we make this formulation part fun?
Girl, we talked about that like 2 days ago too.
We do,
Hey,
it's
that's
a
a
thing.
constant struggle. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, because, and we've said it multiple times, if I'm not having fun, then like I would rather have like a quote unquote real job.
Yeah.
Like that is so much less stressful, less angst. Like it's like if I'm not having fun, then like why am I doing this? Because this is so much harder. So yeah, the goal is to just like take a step back, and if something's not working, like let's just take a deep breath and have fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's okay. We don't have to grind it and push it out. We just need to like, how can, it's that like, let's just take a step back and how can this be more fun? How can I do this in a more fun way? And so over time, I think it's a skill and it takes practice and it's a layering on thing, but you have done an amazing job through all of this. So, um, one of the things I really love, I really appreciate about you is you've gone into this business. I mean, there is a passion part, right? But we've always talked about like, it didn't have to be ice cream. It wasn't like you were, I have to do ice cream. I'm so passionate about ice cream. It's like you, you chose that because it is fun and it is solving a problem and all of that. But you've always had a mission to create more of like a franchise business. You sent me that article about Crumble and how we create, like, you want to create a business that works, almost like a tech company that is an ice cream company.
Well, now that it's summer and I have my sales hat on, I am so passionate about ice cream, and you should too. And you should eat Magic
Yes.
Chonk. But also in the same piece, like, yeah, like I want my main goal, one from day one has been I want to have more fun. And like being an adult should not be mean that you can't have fun on a regular basis. And second, at my core, I'm like an engineer, like like I love the way things work. And so my dream is to build a data driven food business. And yeah, so like that from day one has kind of just been, yes, it's the ice cream, and like I love sweets, like it's a perfect fit for me and it's delicious. But yeah, more so it's like I love how things work and then using data to inform that, and that's Crumble is a good example of that. Like they track all the metrics and they use that to make things better and figure out how to do things. This morning the chamber put on a thing about social media, and it was all about data and using the analytics and stuff. Like that's the stuff that I get really excited about. And that's, yeah, I will say, like, I think that's almost a blessing of like not choosing a passion or a hobby as my business. And I know not everyone is in that situation. You may have, turned a hobby into a job, but even then, like finding what in it makes you excited, and it's not necessarily that thing, because like after a while, like you're kind of over whatever it is that you make, and you're like, if I see another one of those, I don't want it.
Exactly. Like,
And I think that that's another reason why I found this like exciting, is it's something I love, but like, I'm not a, I'm not a pat, like I'm not a, yeah, like a food ice cream. I didn't do it as like a hobby.
yeah, you want to create a real business and something that goes beyond just the ice cream or whatever the product is. So I really appreciate that you're always willing to look at it that way.
Yeah, and create, I almost see it too as like a community. Like I think working in a big corporate environment, just seeing like how those things run, and it's all about like zeros and ones, and people are like replaceable and all this stuff. And I'm like, there has to be some way in which like I want to be an example. I want to start this business that like creates fun, takes care of people, and is profitable and viable, but also like builds, I think the word livelihood incorporates it. Like I would love to build livelihoods for people. And I just feel like a lot of that is lost because there is so much data and numbers, and that's what's rewarded is just that. But taking care of like being a net positive, I think that would be my dream, is like for somebody to leave the experience with Magic Chonk and it's like, yeah, this like feels good overall. Like I don't want it to feel icky.
Yeah. So you kind of had an arbitrary deadline to launch summer of 22. That did not have, there was no way. Looking back, you're like, there was no way that was happening. And then I think there was a little bit of a funk in the fall and like, what am I doing? And so you and I would meet, but like it just felt kind of hard. And I think it's super overwhelming. Like you mentioned it already. It's just a lot. And I looking back over our notes, it's like there was themes of like, there's so many moving parts and I don't know what to do first. And like you talked about time blocking, we've tried different things. And again, some of those stops and starts, you get really inspired and go, go, go. And then you'd be all in like a crazy person,
Totally.
like all
Yeah.
the time, ice cream all the time. And then you would like reject it and be like, F you, I don't want to do this. So we decided to do a half day session in person. And I think we got some really huge breakthroughs from that session we did.
I think that was a big turning point for me. I think that lead up time to that, having experienced myself and like listening to, what you had to say and incorporating that and using that and learning the things that I liked or I didn't like or that were working for me. I might have liked, but they didn't work for me, or, things I didn't quote unquote like, but they were working for me, like learning all of that. Then when we sat down in December and got honest about it, I really realized something about myself that it was like, and I've always lived my life when I look at this, it's extremes. It's like either I'm working like a bajillion hours a week or I'm literally like doing absolutely nothing except like, like to get a glass of water and that's it. So realizing that and being like, and I think you said to me like point blank, like you do this in your personal life and therefore like it will show up in your business and this will never work. Like you actually, and like I had said, like my worry is to lose this opportunity to do all this work and then like I somehow do something that was in my control that didn't let this be viable. And I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why, but more so like the things that I can control if there was something that I did that like affected that ability. And that was a big realization was like, oh, wow, this is something I really need to focus on. And we named them. It was the wild stallion and the like block or the square, whatever. It was like, and either I was like, I want my wild stallion to like run wild. And I would do like 8,000 different things and buy a lottery ticket and go like, take like 3 days to do nothing. And then like the box was like, every minute from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. was scheduled, zero fun, like wake up early, go to the gym. And then it was like, you see this pattern and we've done that, right? It was like when I moved to Denver, really busy, then not. And then it was like this roller coaster. And so it was a conscious effort of like, what are some tools that I could implement that work for me that help me almost balance that so that I can mix those two and it's more consistent. I'm like if I could constantly be like at 70%, if I could constantly every week get like one day that's a home run, like that's the win. That is how I can continue this is the consistency. And it does not have to be 100%. And that was like my big takeaway in December was like, okay, and I needed this to happen. It was motivation through fear because I was like, yikes, if I don't get this out by the summer, like I got to wrap this up and get a quote unquote real job. But
yeah, we put that on the table. I also challenged you. We won't name names, but that you would have to give a sizable donation to a political person that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't launched by April 15th, right? I think it was April.
Yep.
So we used a couple of different strategies, but also I totally remember writing that on the whiteboard where it was like, here's the structured Bryan that's like 100% all on. And then here's Wild Stallion and all the things you do, these two things. And it was like that. I didn't want to put it as an up and down because I don't want to label it as one's good and one's bad, but like it was this constant like swirl back and forth. And so, yeah, you took that and it was like, oh, I see the pattern now. And so, we framed it in like, how do we schedule in Wild Stallion time so that part of you gets taken care of, right?
Yeah. And realizing like you've said something in that session too, that it's like that wild stallion free, do whatever you want. It feels like freedom, but you are doing things that are forcing decisions in the future. and it's literally taking away your freedom. So yes, this moment now might feel like it, but it's removing your freedom in the future. And it almost gives me the ability to be more authentically myself as well. I like now when I have free time, I'm like, this is time for me to be me and do what I want. And I feel zero guilt about it. And I can bring more of me into my business rather than, that like professor of business all the time. Like that doesn't feel like me, which is why I only do it for a short period of time. And then hyper chaotic Bryan, like that, I'm a mix of those things. And so in a way, it gave me the tools and the ability to look at it and be like, okay, yeah, I can literally like be me. And that was one of my goals from the start too, is like, I don't want my world where it's like Monday through Friday, business Bryan, like Saturday, Sunday, it's personal Bryan. I almost would love a schedule where it's just a mix. It's a balance. And some of the really successful, like one of the really successful CEOs at the bank that I was at, that was one of the things she said. She was like, I just view my life as it's a mix. Like if I need to do something in the middle of the week, I do it. I don't feel guilty, but then I make it up at my other time. And so, yeah, it enabled me to bring more of me and for me to be more me. And then I felt the less of a need to escape and less of a need to like go, lash out against myself and the business. Yeah.
Oh man, you have a good coach. That's freaking
yeah, you're a good coach. Yeah, good job. Wait, the one other, can I note one other thing? I think one of the things I've learned the most working with you and like listening to your podcast is you give a lot of tools and it's always worth trying them, but not feeling like they have to work for you. It's like a lot of things in life that there is not one answer. And so what works for me is not the same that works for Sari. And even what works for me today is not what worked for me 6 months ago, and trying new things as well. And so like for me, I'll use an example in that me balancing it was I time blocked my whole day. And I would use like different calendars to like with colors. So I visually could look at my day and I could see, oh, like purple, I would call it chaos time. I still book chaos time or like chaos party. So I when I look at my day, if it's like blue is work and red is personal work, and then purple is like chaos time. And so if I look at my day and it's booked and it's all red and blue, I'm like, that's not going to work for me. Like I need to do something else and make time for the purple. Or if it's all purple, I'm like, dude, get at least like a little bit of blue in there or something like that. It's that I found to be helpful, but there's a lot of different tools out there that can help you. Just finding what works for you in that time and being willing to try them and fail, or like not have them work for you and being like, okay.
Yeah. Or like that worked, but that piece of it didn't. And let me blend it with something else. I mean, all my tools have been evolving over time. And maybe what I said 2 years ago, I'm like, yeah, I kind of do that differently now. It's changed even for me and in my business. I used to be highly scheduled, and now, 5-7 years in, it looks different for sure. So yeah, I appreciate that. It's like, I want everybody to just hear, like, you don't have to do it Bryan's way, and Bryan's business model is not for everybody, but like find the balance and find time to I don't know, do the business your way. And I think you and I talked before, we want this podcast to be a lot about authenticity and just like, if you're going to do this business, do it your way.
Unapologetically. Yeah. There are no rules. Like, break the rules and do it your way. And have fun.
Right. So we set a hard deadline. We planned it out. We acknowledged the chaos time that was needed. And I think that definitely helped balance things out. And then you got to work. And then I guess you didn't get the pints till after I was there in March, but we did do another planning session, kind of that final. We had about a month to go from our deadline that we set.
And then the next week I crashed. That was the next week that I was like, so there's another, and I'm not perfect. Like, no matter how many times, and I guarantee you I'll still do it. But like, even after that, like, I got all that stuff done. There was balance, but like, I really pushed it. We did another planning meeting when you were up here. I think it was that next week. I was like, I am just like burnt out. And it was just, and we talked about like, okay, is this burnout or are you like whatever? And landed on like, no, I'm just like tired. And so I think I took a full week of just neglecting everything and just doing what I wanted. and then it gave me the time to like recoup and gave me time to, and wait, actually, I do want to back up. I did take a week to do nothing, but then I realized a couple of days in that like doing nothing is back to that back and forth. And so doing one, like rather than getting a fully stacked schedule with an even balance, it was like just get one thing done, and it can be super easy. It's like, reach out, email somebody or Google something or order a thing you have to order. It was like really easy stuff, but kind of keeping that momentum going, incrementally pushing it forward rather than pushing it an inch every day. I pushed it forward like a centimeter, and that let me like get back into it, and then launched Memorial Day weekend. Yeah.
Well, and you did have your first pint in by the deadline, which
Yep.
was so fun.
Yeah.
And I got to be your first sale.
Yeah.
Got some, which is so great. And I asked you, the question about people are like, am I burned out or am I just buffering? And I said, if I was, I can't remember what example I used, but like basically,
I think it was a lottery ticket. Yeah.
if I told you, reach down in the couch and there's a lottery ticket that's, $1 million winning, would you get excited right now? Would you be off the couch and like, woo? And you were like, no.
No, I'd be like, I can wait next week. Yeah.
I was like, okay, yes, you have permission to check out for a little bit, because that is like, that's always my tell. And even for myself, I'm like, do I need a nap just because I'm avoiding something? Or if like something amazing were to happen, would I jump off the couch and be like, and if not, I'm like, no, I need the nap.
Yeah.
Take the time.
I needed a very long nap. Yeah.
Yes. So yes, let's jump ahead. So you launched, you got on the bike Memorial Day weekend. You had the usual for everybody going through this. You had the usual, like the freezer door got left open or didn't quite get shut all the way.
Yep.
So you'd done all this production and then a bunch of
lost my inventory. Yeah.
Of course, we've had like such a weird spring weather-wise. It's been rainy and sunny and all these things. But we were heading up to Memorial Day weekend, and that was going to be when you got on the bike for the very first time. And then you were like, I need to talk.
Yeah, it was even like, I like to, like, I'm saying all this stuff like, yeah, it's reaching out to people. But even that was May 26th was my first day selling. That's my birthday. And the week leading up to it, looking back, I was like, I was not well. Like I was like getting like focusing on one thing all day and like getting like was like working long days. And I realized like I was just like so scared about that day, especially for context for anyone. Like I have never been in a sales role. Like I'm really good at the engineering stuff. And like, I love talking to people, but that exchange of I have this and the sales pitch and the getting someone to buy it and accepting money, that's all new to me. Like I have never done that before. And it was terrifying. And to like bring it fully full circle, going from before when we first met, I was in this like finance world that felt authentically me and what I wanted, to then, wow, this so doesn't align with me. And I can't even bring my full self, and like where, basically I can't bring me into my job because I fit into this box in a corporate world. Now I've built this brand that has subconsciously, like it has a piece of me in it. Like I built it for exactly what I wanted to see in the world. And now I'm putting myself fully out there. I have no walls up. It's super vulnerable. And I'm going to go out on a bike and say like, hi, do you want my ice cream? And like, that day before, that Thursday, like I sat on my floor and I cried for 15 minutes. And then I was like, oh man, like, and I had been avoiding talking to you. I didn't even talk to you that week. Like normally I feel like I would have texted you and I was like, I need to talk to Sari. So it was like that afternoon, I was like, can we please meet? And then I cried for like 20 minutes. And then, you assured me, you were like, this is normal. It makes sense. And it's scary.
It is scary. What we also did was create a plan. Like, I think you were like, I got to be out there all weekend and it's scary. And what if this happens? What if that happens? 'Cause, I would be scared because I'm kind of terrified of bikes and like physical stuff. So I would be scared too. And it's like, we said, just you're going to be out there. You're going to leave the house by this time. And you're going to, I don't know, we said like an hour, like
Yeah, it was,
just
yep.
a minimum baseline. Like, that's all. That's it. And then if it's not working, you're not liking it, it's whatever, then you have permission.
Nobody talks to you, then I'm allowed to leave. Yeah. That was the rule, is I am allowed to be out there for 1 hour, and if no one talks to me, then I'm allowed to leave. And the win for the day was just getting on the bike. That was literally it. And yeah, I originally had planned for that weekend. I was like, I'm going to be out, back to that extreme. It's like, I'm going to be out from dawn to dusk, like, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then after talking, it was like, no, like, it's my birthday and it's a holiday weekend. And yes, I'm launching. I've been working on this for a long time, but like, how about we find a happy medium? Get out there for a couple hours, just get comfortable being there on the bike, see what happens. And then I spent that afternoon going for a hike. And that was the win.
So tell me about I was like, you gotta send me photos. I kept hounding you for photos. So tell us about what happened when you got out on the bike. You did.
It was really wonderful. I think I cried like twice while I was out there too. It was like, the community was really supportive. My neighbor, she owns a business in town, Meat Bar and Steamboat. Definitely go if you guys are up here. It's amazing. And she had a lot of advice for me too, saying like, definitely post on because there's a local, like a strong Facebook chat group that everyone, post on there and say that you're going to be there. And so I did that. And then, I got out on the bike and there were a bunch of people. It just was coincidentally like a good day. And there were a lot of people. I was at a playground. There were a lot of people there and people were excited and supportive. And I leaned into that, me and that vulnerability, just saying like, it's my birthday. I mean, you encouraged me to do that. You were like, emphasize, like, it's your first, like, it's my birthday. It's my first day out. And I've been working on this 1.5 years or 2 years. And, like, let me know what you think. And the reception was really good. People were excited. A lot of people who saw it online, like, explicitly came out to get some ice cream. And it was super reassuring. I mean, that day, like, I had somebody whose husband can't have dairy and then her daughter can't have dairy. And I mean, that's like why I started this. She, they came up and they were so excited and she can't have dairy and they're always looking for good ice cream. So they got some. And then she came up and just shared like, this is my favorite ice cream I've ever had. And I turned around and I cried. I was like, thanks. And I cried like this. So like, yeah, like that's why I did this. This is literally why is because ice cream is a right. Like it is just so great. And like, especially as kids, if you have an allergy, like you don't know why, you just know like you're different. And
like, I just can't have that.
Yeah. And I mean,
you're excluded.
And I have felt like that throughout my life. Like I'm gay. I'm I have felt like the other as well. So I can really emphasize with that, where it's like, all my friends are having ice cream and I can't, like, I'm the other. It doesn't feel good, especially as a kid. You don't know. You just know you're different. So that day was really like special and wonderful. And it was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll always remember that one for sure.
Oh my gosh. I know. You sent me some great photos and just so proud of you. Even just thinking about it now, it's like, I know we kept having that conversation about like, I don't know if I'm a finisher. Like, I don't have a good track record of finishing things. And
totally.
You can never, ever use that against yourself again.
Yeah, I did it. But now I'm like, oh my God, I have to keep it going. That was our conversation this week.
Yeah. Right? It's been a 2+ year journey for you, and you did it. Yay, we can celebrate. And now the real work begins.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
In our short time left, do you want to just, I know it's a work in progress and you and I are still evaluating some different paths, but, just share a little bit about what you see for the going forward.
Totally. So right now, and for this summer, I'm just selling single serve, like prepackaged cups off of, I have an ice cream tricycle. Follow me online if you want to see it at Magic Chonk. And so I'm just selling these single scoops around town. A lot of people see me as just a guy on a bike and that's about it. But from day one, we've talked about my goal is to grow it much larger. So ideally wholesale and direct to consumer. And my goal for this summer is really to get comfortable with putting myself out there and in the sales role, getting feedback, improving it. Ideally next summer, I will either be direct to consumer online or in a wholesale capacity, and then see what happens from there. And yeah, continue building like the data-driven food business of the world, bringing fun and ice cream to everybody. But I would say, like, I think the one takeaway, the two things, if I can put those out there. One, I like to emphasize that, like, if you have not started this, like, this is the most scared that you will be. It is the scariest part. That, like, October conversation that we had, or right before January, like, if you're in that in between, like, that is the most scary. Once you make that decision, everything is way less scary. And the second thing is it's never exhausting being yourself. So if you can just bring yourself into your business, it is also scary and, like, very vulnerable because there's more of you in it, and you have no defenses and walls up, but you can always be yourself. Every day you just wake up and you just do it. So those would be my two big things I'd like to leave with anybody who's a Bryan in October 2021.
It's really beautiful. Yeah. I know when I stopped trying to be other online personalities and I just was like, this is who you get. This is me. It got easier, right? It's no less scary sometimes putting yourself out there, but it sure is a lot easier to just be me than try to pretend.
I think the other thing I think about too is, like, I feel like most people listening to this, it's food related, is it's even harder because food is so connected with, like, love and caring. And, like, when you, even at home, you make something for someone, you put your TLC into it. And so making a food business, it's almost scarier because it's like, do you like this? Like, I made this. Is it like, there's, you put a lot of love into it. It's not like a widget that it's like, yeah, I just made this thing. Like, so it is really tough. And so just putting yourself out there, realizing that, like, you are the best you that you can be, and, like, that's what people love. Like, that would be the number one thing I'd want to share.
I love it. So yes, everybody can find you at Magic Chonk online, magicchonk.com. We have a great 3PL provider. Shout out to Rob at Full Good, and they can ship frozen. So I know that'll be coming soon, later this year, as we go from the summer weather, ice cream weather. Steamboat has a shorter season.
But if you're in Steamboat this summer, come find me on the bike for sure, or at least just say hi.
Yes, 100%. But yeah, go check out Bryan and his journey. And I thank you for sharing, being vulnerable here. And I know it's going to be so helpful because you are, believe me, I see behind the curtain everybody's insecurities. And so you are certainly not the only one who has had to work through the anxieties and the overwhelm and
we all have it. Yeah.
Self-sabotage and all of it, right?
Totally.
I appreciate you sharing your journey and you did it. You can check off you launched the ice cream and now you've been on the podcast. So
yeah, what a wild
2023.
Yeah.
Some things off your list. Go make some new big goals, 10x goals, right? We're working on that. And I'm just so excited to be part of the next part of your journey, whatever way I can show up for you.
I'm excited too. So thanks. And yeah, you'll be right there.
I know we were talking like, we're just going to keep growing together, keep leveling up, next level.
Yeah, you got to work on your stuff. So when I'm big, you're like, okay, we got this.
Yeah,
you have to have the answers, not me. That's how this works, right?
All I do is get you to pull the answers out of you.
Oh man, I got it all mixed up.
I just get better at it. And
yeah.
You get better too. So, well, thank you so much, Bryan. It's been such a pleasure, and you did amazing. And anytime you need to come back and remind yourself of all of your amazing wins, now you have a permanent piece.
Yes.
Digital proof. You can come back to over and over again. All right, my friend.
Cue the jingle. Let's hear it. You're the outro.
That's right. Here we go. Out to the outro. I love it. So there you have it. Oh, that was so fun. I am sure you could hear the joy and the appreciation and all of the goodness in our voices. I felt like this was just such a fun podcast. As I was editing it, I was laughing. I was feeling such warmth and love for him and for all of you. And if you are motivated that you want to be on the podcast someday, come and work with me. I really love to interview people who work with me. I get a ton of requests from other brands who are like, have me on the podcast. And I'm like, no, I don't really do that. I only feature people inside my programs. And that's the way I like it. And it's my podcast. So I got to do what I want. And so it is possible for you to create a beautiful business, one that is fun and creates magic and is profitable, and that it's sometimes anxiety ridden and sometimes it's hard and there are tears and laughter all at the same time. Both can be true. Now we cue the outro. Until next time, have an amazing week. The smartest thing you can do as an entrepreneur is to invest in a who to help you with the how, to speed up your journey and help you skip the line. When you are ready for more support and accountability to finally get this thing done, you can work with me in 2 ways. Get me all to yourself with one-on-one business coaching, or join Food Business Success, which includes membership inside Fuel, our community of food business founders that includes monthly live group coaching calls and so much more. It's one of my favorite places to hang out, and I would love to see you there. Go to foodbizsuccess.com to start your journey towards your own food business success.